All right, guys. Great to be with you. I don't know how many of you are watching Rudy Giuliani now. He's going nuts here. It's awesome. I've got my live stream of the RNC coming from this computer here that I have my webcam on, and then I've got my YouTube setup live stream here as well. Just give me, let me turn the sound off here. Give me a thumbs up. Is everybody able to hear me okay? How's the sound? Let me hear it in the chat. Yes. All right. Thanks, Christmas Eve. Awesome. Thanks, Barry. Truthsayer. Love it. Theo Wild. Excellent. All right. We're ready to go. Time to party. I'm not late today. Normally, I've been late for live streams at night because I've been making tea. And and cheap tea, as you can see it, microwave tea, quick tea. Sorry to all my British compatriots out there. I know. I remember I got my PhD in Durham, England, across the pond in Britain. And the thing I miss so much is the wonderful tea that I would drink there. So I brought back a bunch, but of course I went through it really quick. Welcome everybody for our live stream party. I will try to keep abreast of any questions you might have in the process or any comments you have that you want me to comment on. I think Trump is scheduled for 10:30 Eastern time. I think. Who is this? Is this Tom Cotton coming up now? Yeah, this senator here is an up and comer. Big time. Tom Cotton, keep an eye on him for 2024. The Republican crop is great. They're all becoming Trumpians, which is huge. It's one of the reasons why I kind of named this watch party here, Trump's Triumphant RNC speech. You have to remember 4 years ago tonight, as it were, 4 years ago, Trump had just taken over the Republican Party. Okay. If you don't remember or perhaps you do, the convention 4 years ago, Trump just took over a party that for the last 30 years had been inundated with globalists, with liberal globalists akin to George Herbert Walker Bush. Remember, Reagan had a big time populist streak to him. And it was really George Herbert Walker Bush that bought into the Francis Fukuyama end of history thesis and basically saw the United States as the new leader of a globalist world economy. Globalism just simply being a vast network of interconnected technologies and telecommunications that in effect create a single worldwide system. That's how I use the term. And my wife is from Japan. And so one of my favorite examples was when I was in Tokyo by myself. I was actually traveling on the trains, and I had to switch trains, had to stop, and I was hungry. I'd been on train for a while, so I decided to get something to eat. And what do I see, lo and behold, right in front of me, but the Golden Arches, Makadonarado, as they say in Japan, McDonald's. And I go in there and I say, Bango Ichi, which means number one. And then she said something strange to the lady. I couldn't understand in Japanese. And I said, sumimasen, wakarimasen. I don't quite understand. Forgive me. And she goes, do you want supersize? If I recall, I think I said sure. And so I go and I get my Big Mac, my large fries, my Coca-Cola, and I go to a seat that's looking out the window outside on the streets. And what do you know? There's this huge poster of the latest Leonardo DiCaprio movie. And that really brought globalism home to me more than anything else. You know, when you are 10,000 miles away from the United States of America, where I was on the East Coast, and yet basically everything around you could have been, in New York City. It could have been in New Haven. It could have been in Boston, but I was in Tokyo. That standardized, single, economic, interconnected, technological, telecommunicative, corporation-based world is what the Republican Party believed was going to be the wave of the future. Democrats, too, in many respects. They just wanted higher taxes as part of it. Donald Trump took over the party 4 years ago, and he pushed it more towards a nationalist, populist, and traditionalist party. It was the party, it became officially the party of Pat Buchanan. And as a result, the nationalist emphasis focused on border security, building a wall. Globalists hate walls, right? Walls interrupt the interconnectivity, the uninterrupted standardization of all things. They despise walls. Trump wanted a wall. He wanted border security. He wanted economic security, bringing our manufacturing back home. Globalists don't like that. Globalists like to keep inflation down by keeping production costs as low as possible, and that means shipping all manufacturing jobs to the third world. And then Trump wanted to protect our culture, customs, and traditions. Again, globalists believe in something called detraditionalization. They believe the world is going to be increasingly secularized. And so in celebrating your traditions and customs and the like, you're basically a knuckle dragger, you know. you're a backward. I'm sorry. I'm also a little bit distracted by the speakers there. They look wonderful. Alas, Trump put forward a new program for the Republican Party, and look at it 4 years later. Virtually all the globalists are gone. Virtually, I know there's some stubborns around there, but virtually all the globalists are gone. They all endorsed Biden, and good riddance, let them do it. They were doing the same thing back in 2016. Remember who was the Washington Post published, what was it, the Bobby Bush tapes of Trump, you know, the infamous Trump talking about sexually molesting women and all that sort of stuff just a month before the election. I believe it was in October. And you had like 30 Republicans come out and said, prominent Republicans said, he needs to drop out and we need to put somebody else, you know, maybe a Mitt Romney in position. Of course, Trump didn't drop out and he went on to win in an electoral landslide. Tonight is the celebration. It's a triumph of having fully taken over this party. It is now a nationalist, populist, and traditionalist party. It is an America First party. And it's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. It's going to be a radically dominant party. So it's really exciting to see him and where he's come in the last 4 years. How you guys doing? Just checking some of the comments here. How many do we have with us? Do I have any numbers here? Can't see it. I can't see. No, I don't see it. All right. I don't have numbers of how many. Oh, no, I do. 1.5 thousand. All right. We could do better than that, though. Come on. Bring your friends, invite them. I would recommend, I'm sure you figured it out, but I mean, I would recommend having either, you know, a separate tab open to watch the live feed, or I have two computers here, one, my live stream, and then I'm looking at, as I'm looking at you, I'm looking at the live stream of the RNC. Let's see, a couple of things here. Obviously, Trump has begun to surge. There has been a massive surge. Dick Morris, who's been very skeptical of what's been going on with Trump over the last month or so, he was really, really worried. I don't think he should have been, but he was. He pays very close attention to the opinion polls. He thinks the opinion polls are reflective of the electorate, accurately speaking. I don't. I tend to share the opinion of Helmut Norpoth. I don't mind opinion polls. We'll go over some of them tonight. But I tend to share the opinion of University of Stony Brook Professor Helmut Norpoth, who doesn't believe opinion polls accurately reflect today the electorate as 2016 proved. But Dick Morris is now very, very excited where Trump is. Trump is just skyrocketed in the polls over the last few weeks. So much so, you've probably heard about this. But now, as of today, Nancy Pelosi came out and told Biden that he should not be debating Trump. He should turn down the debates. Okay. And then she gave a stupid reason for it. She gave a ridiculous reason. I'm sure you all heard it. You know, a debate would dignify Trump. A debate would dignify the president of the United States. It would validate Trump, and he's beyond redemption. I mean, this kind of talk is so bizarre coming from Nancy Pelosi. So I can only chalk up this bizarre rhetoric, this rant, to the fact that they are panicked. I don't know if you saw that Scott Rasmussen, the Rasmussen Corporation, the polling industry, tweeted out the other day that they had information that the mainstream media has been hiding polls this week. And they've been hiding polls because Trump's ahead. Trump has passed Biden. It's now basically official. And Rasmussen's own poll that was released Wednesday have them at a statistical tie, which is extraordinary because just 4 weeks ago, Biden had an 8-point lead. Again, we always knew that was going to close. That gap was going to close. Remember, Dukakis right around this time had a 20-point lead over Herbert Walker Bush in 1988. So we knew it was going to close, but we didn't realize it was going to close that rapidly. He's gained almost 10 points in just 4 weeks. A CNN poll had the same thing, Trump gaining 10 points in a matter of just a couple of weeks. So I think they're panicked, and I think they realize that the more the public sees Biden and the more they're seeing Trump, they're going with Trump. They may not like Trump, but they see Trump at least as competent, and they see Trump as standing in the way of the chaos and the mayhem that's been unleashed in Democrat cities. Both Biden and Harris tried to make the argument today that the riots, now they're officially referring to them as riots. This is quite wonderful. I thought they were peaceful protests. Isn't that interesting? They have officially announced, or they're officially trying to link Trump with those riots. No one is buying it, number one. No one is buying it. And number two, they're only doing that because they know their polls are getting crushed by them. They're getting crushed by these riots. And we knew that. We knew they would. We did videos right when the riots broke out. So this is the end of May. And if you go to our channel and you look around, say the first week of June, maybe even it was the very first video we did after the George Floyd killing. But we said this is going to bite the Democrats big time. And it's going to bite the Democrats big time precisely because Americans do not like the disillusion of law and order. Americans live purposely, those who can, they live purposely in areas that are free from crime, relatively speaking. Crime is a very big concern for Americans because they know it's primarily an urban problem. And so suburbia and exurbia residents are there precisely in order to stay away from that kind of social dilapidation. And it's hurting the Democrats. The study by the Princeton political professor, recently published 2016, shows that whenever you have these race riots, consistently the Republican presidential candidate, ends up getting nearly a 10-point boost from the previous election. So we knew this was going to backfire. It was just a matter of time. And there was no amount of gaslighting that CNN and MSNBC could do about it. We did a mockery video of that today. So we are seeing the Democrats beginning to panic. Nancy Pelosi is recognizing, holy crap, Trump may very well win this. We always knew he would. That's, again, largely because I tend to go by the work of Helmut Norpoth, which we'll talk about in a bit. Now, if you do have some questions or comments and I haven't answered it, just you're just going to have to put them in the chat a few times. Yeah, come on, man. What are you, a junkie? That's right. And you heard about this too. Speaking of, I don't know if this just come back to bite Biden, but The last time somebody asked him if he took a cognitive test, he was like, come on, man, what are you, a junkie? If you asked me if I took a drug test, right, you think I was a junkie. Now Trump wants Biden taking a drug test. Did you hear about that before the debates? He wants to see if Biden is on something, and he wants everybody to see it. I mean, Trump is really bold, and he goes there. That's what makes him so awesome. He goes there, he fights. It's really, really impressive stuff. All right, what do we got here? Anything, guys? Hoorah. Let's see. What do you think of the effect of Trump losing or winning in Asia and versus the CCP? That's going to be a really good question. If Trump loses, China will be more emboldened than ever. They already are. You have to understand, as I understand it, China has already been radically emboldened by virtue of these race riots and by virtue of the Democrat resistance of Trump and their attempt to try to bring him down, to basically try to politically destroy him. Because we're so bogged down in just basics of law and order keeping and the basics of trying to maintain this pandemic at reasonable levels, which, by the way, it's, as I understand, it's the lowest level ever since it broke out. It's pretty good right now, especially where I am in the Philadelphia area. It was really bad for a while, around New York and stuff. So anyway, all of that's to say that I think that China will be radically emboldened if Biden wins. If Trump wins again, it's going to be, they know they're going to be dealing with the one person on the planet that's willing to take, and Narendra Modi of India. Trump and Modi have been kind of a 1-2 punch against the Belt and Road Initiative and the expansion of CCP influence throughout the world. Remember, we tend to see, if you're new to the channel, there's actually 3 globalisms going on in the world today. So there's your Western globalism centered in, the United States and in Brussels. But then you also have a Chinese form of globalism that's trying to create a standardized political and economic system where all the roads lead back to Beijing. And then thirdly, there is an Islamic globalism that's being led by Iran. So you have, in effect, an economic globalism in the West, a political globalism, a Stalinist sort of globalism in the East via China, and then you have a religious globalism in the Middle East. And as you could see, Trump is taking on all 3 globalisms. He's a massive, big global thinker. And so if Trump wins, China's going to have a really tough time. No question about it. They know they're going to deal with it. But again, the more the Democrats try to undermine him, the more they embolden China. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to have to do a little more research in what some of the Asian scholars that I like, what they think is the near future prospects given the November election. What do we got? What else, guys? Thank you for that $5 gift. I didn't see. I just have A there. Thanks for answering, Steve. Here's another good question. Do you think George Soros is really that influential? And then it zipped up. I forgot to hit a slower, the slower switch for the comments. Forgive me for that, for the live chat. Yeah, Soros has his tentacles, at least indirectly, in virtually every leftist organization, because they're all interconnected in some way, shape, or form. So Soros is there. Yeah, you could be assured of that. To what extent, I don't quite know, but that's for sure. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for that compliment. Yeah, that's what we're here for. We're here to encourage one another. We're family. We're a global family, not globalist, right? Global family where we love nation, culture, custom, tradition, right? We have studies that show that those people who voted for Trump overwhelmingly voted for Trump because they love their culture, they love other cultures. So we're motivated by and this is what makes our movement so wonderful, this worldwide movement of nationalism, populism, traditionalism. We're motivated by a love for our own, not a hatred for the other, unlike BLM, unlike the new ethnocentric mono-ethnic tribalism that we see in the Democratic Party right now. That's motivated by a hatred of other, right? But we are motivated by a love of our own, our nations, our cultures, our customs. As somebody once put it, I lock my doors at night, not because I hate the people on the outside, but because I love the people on the inside. And when you feel secure and you feel like you can celebrate your culture, then when you go to other cultures, you love them and appreciate them all the more. So we have studies that show it's a net positive when you're a nationalist populist in terms of loving other cultures and appreciating other cultures. So that's what makes this movement we have so wonderful. Thanks, Buffalo. Well, love your videos, sir. Keep them coming, man. I shall, my friend. I shall. Yeah, and for those of you who are praying people, we are a Christian channel. Please keep us in your prayers. I am very concerned about the amount of deplatforming that I'm seeing and suspension of channels on YouTube simply because they tend to be nationalist populists. It's a very, very disturbing thing. So keep us all in prayer. We'll be safe under your prayers for sure. So let me give you another thing here too. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the work of Helmut Norpoth. I do want to share his work with you. He is the political scientist at Stony Brook University. And he has a model. He has an algorithm that's predicted rightly. I've heard two now. I've got to narrow this down. He's either predicted 25 of the last 27 presidential elections rightly, or 22 of the last 24. Right before this live stream, when I was reading up, I normally say 22 of the last 24. If I did the math, I'll share with you in a minute. I could probably figure it out. My math is horrible, but so it's either 25 of the last 27 or 22 of the last 24, because his algorithm has picked the presidential winner correctly, predicted correctly, in every election since 1912. 1912 is the first election that we had primaries. And that's why this algorithm is called the primary model, because what he has found is that, what are they doing? Hold on. What do we got? Oh, Ivanka Trump. All right, cool. All right, I'm going to be talking through all of this, so go ahead and go back and forth. I've got the subtitles on my. Oh man, look at that, guys! I mean, gosh, look at how beautiful that is in front. I'm talking about the White House. I'm not talking about Ivanka, but I'm sure Ivanka is quite beautiful too. I'm sure she has political aspirations. You may indeed, if we do see a Trump dynasty. You may be indeed looking at a very serious contender for the presidency in the not so distant future. And Ivanka, we'll have to see on that one. But Helmut Norpoth has this model called the primary model that's predicted rightly the last either 22 of the last 24 elections or 25 of the last 27, because the goal goes back to 1912. 1912 is the first time that we have primaries. And what Norpoth found was a pattern. And the pattern is the one who wins the primaries overwhelmingly goes on to win the general election. The primaries are the election in microcosm because they have to happen all over the place, but particularly the early ones, because this gives you a sense of who voters really want in the office. And what he found is if you just go from election to election to election, whoever wins the primary goes on to win the general election. So in 1912, it was Taft. Taft was looking for a re-election, but then he was challenged by Teddy Roosevelt. And Teddy Roosevelt actually won the primaries, but the powers that be, the establishment, put Taft in nonetheless as their candidate for re-election. At the same time, the Democrats had Woodrow Wilson running for their nominee, and he crushed everybody, all the other Democrats in the primaries. He went on to win the election quite handily, and that's the pattern. And so when you came to 2016, what's so interesting with Norpoth is that most people like Nate Silver and all these others, they actually give their prediction. They give their prediction at the point we are now in the election. They will change that prediction all the way up till like the day of the election. They'll give you like a November 3rd prediction on morning of November 3rd. What Norpoth makes Norpoth so fascinating is his predictions are like 6 or 7 months before the actual election. And it's because it's based on the primaries. He does not look at opinion polls. Opinion polls mean nothing to this algorithm. And yet the algorithm has picked rightly virtually every presidential election since 1912. So in 2016, and this is what I went with, our channel started on November 1st, 2016, with an extended argument. We did 7 videos in a row, right? A video every day leading up to the November 8th election. And I made the sustained argument that Trump was going to win. And he was going to win primarily because of what I called the Brexit, tailwinds. He was going to sweep into office in the same way that Brexit had passed just a few months earlier on June 23rd, 2016 in Britain. He actually said on the campaign trail in 2016, "Call me Mr. Brexit." He believed Brexit was the path forward for the reinvigoration of the nation state throughout the world. So we were arguing from that basis, but then I also slipped in Helmut Norpoth's prediction that he predicted all the way back, if I recall, is February or March of 2016. He said Trump was going to win. He was going to beat Hillary Clinton, and he had an 87% chance of doing so. So this is what makes this guy so fascinating. So if you're not familiar, he has most certainly put in his prediction for this year. And he is giving Trump a 91% chance at re-election. And he says COVID, race riots. We've had elections since 1912 with pandemics. We've had elections with race riots and so forth. I mean, the whole Freddie Gray thing, Baltimore and Michael Brown and Ferguson and all that. We've had race riots in the past. Okay. It's looking at those primaries, and Trump trounced Trump set new records in the primaries. He crushed anyone who tried to get in his way, like William Weld, right? Bill Weld. Remember, William Weld was governor of Massachusetts, and he lost New Hampshire embarrassingly. He had a great political apparatus in New Hampshire, and he lost miserably. Trump got 3 times the vote that Obama did, which was in 2012, the last time an incumbent ran for re-election there. How did Biden do in New Hampshire? You remember that? He didn't even break double digits. It was humiliating. Came in 5th place. He didn't even stick around for the celebration party. He left. He went to South Carolina. And that's what Helmut Norpoth watched. Helmut Norpoth said, that's it. So Iowa and the caucus there, so New Hampshire. Now, he was able to recover, Biden that is, after the entire establishment came behind him. But even then, Bernie was still winning primaries. And he won Texas, he won, Washington or Oregon. He won primaries here or there. Trump was slaying every primary, setting new records. So he sees Trump with a 91% chance at re-election. Now, if that's the case, and that's kind of the confidence that's been guiding my analysis, that meant that we should at least begin to see, as we move more and more towards November, the opinion polls tick up towards Trump. And that's precisely what we're seeing. For the opinion polls, we've got the Rasmussen poll that just came out that has the race at a statistical tie. That came out yesterday. Trump was down 8 points 4 weeks ago. Then he was down 4 points 2 weeks ago, and now they're tied. So expect in the next couple of days or next Wednesday, he puts his race poll out on each Wednesday. Expect Trump to take a lead there. The Zogby poll that just came out has Trump at his highest approval rating ever, 52%. That's via Zogby's tracking. 36% support among Black Americans. That's why they're hitting so hard trying to draw as many Blacks into the Republican Party. There is a massively rich and awesome, what do you want to call it, Black demographic within the conservative Republican Party, Nationalist Populist Party. And Trump's like, come on in, guys. It's great. The water's fine. This is a great party, and it's going to enrich your life. So he's really making a serious effort to bring as much of the black vote into the Republican Party as possible. Zogby also has the race at a statistical tie. CBS poll has Trump 10 points ahead with independents. New poll that just came out from Wisconsin has Trump ahead. Remember, Wisconsin, prior to 2016, hadn't voted for a Republican candidate since, if I recall, 1984, so over 30 years. And he and Biden are statistically tied in Minnesota. Absolutely stunning. Minnesota has not voted for a Republican since 1972. If Trump wins Minnesota, and he is poised to, this is over. This is going to be, they're going to have to find a new definition of what a landslide means. All right. I've been bloviating here. How are we doing, guys? What do we got here? Mail-in ballots. Yeah, we'll have to see with them. But again, this is Norpoth's point. This is not the first time Democrats have cheated in election. Okay, so the question is whether or not the mail-in ballots are going to be such a tsunami that they would overturn the election. I don't think so. I think I would be shocked to see that. Again, you have history here on your side. Democrats have been they've been cheating for forever, and they haven't been able to break this cycle of whoever wins the primaries goes on to win the general election. So we'll have to see. Granted, I think it's very concerning, but in the end, it's up to the Republicans to make sure that they limit any kind of cheating. On opinion on early voting, again, we've had early voting, for forever, for the last 100 years, and it hasn't changed the basic structure that whoever wins the most votes in the primary goes on to win the general election. So I see this as a lot of this is just kind of artificial. Does it make it harder? Yeah. Can it be a little concerning here or there? Yeah. But in the end, I don't think it makes a difference. What else do we have here, guys? Latinos for Trump. Amen, Roger. Amen. Latinos are one of the most pro-life demographics in the nation, more so than whites. There's no excuse on the planet for Latinos to be in the most pro-abortion party on the planet. There's just absolutely no reason. Latinos are thoroughly conservative people, and they belong thoroughly within the Republican Party, the party of nationalism, populism, and traditionalism. Keep bloviating. All right. I shall. Where's Hunter? Good question. Tutankhamun Pelosi. Oh, my. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Pelosi's young enough to be with Tutankhamun, but mail-in voting could account for 20% of the vote. We'll see. But again, the point is there's been shenanigans for the last 100 some odd years. They're always going to pull shenanigans. So Republicans have to make sure that those shenanigans are limited. And those shenanigans for the last 100 years have not been able to overwhelm the clear pattern that whoever gets the majority primary votes, like Trump has, fourfold or fourfold, goes on to win. And that's why he gives him 91% chance for winning Trump re-election. So my, oh my, look at that beautiful, beautiful scene. I mean, just compare that to Biden. I mean, just the optics of this convention has been stunning. They've just done such a stellar job. I'm so excited to see how the the Democrat, remember, and I was reading about this. There were commentators, there were pundits who believed that Biden could possibly be right now, as we speak, 20 points ahead of Trump. They believed that 14-point lead that CNN was pushing, which was nonsense, but that 14-point lead could have turned to 20 after the 2 weeks, the week he announced Kamala Harris, which has turned out to be a disaster. Talk about a primary disaster. She didn't even go to New Hampshire because she knew she couldn't break 1%. So she was, if you wanted to find a weaker candidate than Biden, you couldn't find anyone better than Kamala Harris. And the following week, the Democrats convention, which every single Every person who goes on to win the election gets a bounce. Those who don't get a political, an opinion bounce, a polling bounce, don't go on to win. Hello, Mitt Romney. Hello, John Kerry. They did not get bounces. Biden did not get a single bounce. If anything, he fell. And Trump has been bouncing ever since. So anyway, again, we don't want to take anything for granted. I know we don't want to be complacent. We don't want to be like Hillary in 2016, but we also don't want to be, gloom and doom pessimists. Let Biden stay in his basement. We're not going to be in our bunkers. That's for sure. We're not going to be in our basement. We're going to be out there voting. Settings or even suburban settings, as it were, highly urbanized suburban settings. And then we start building our buildings high into the sky and all that kind of stuff. And, you can just see the factories and spewing out the pollution, all that. And then COVID hits with the internet in place. And scholars have been talking about a network society, an internet-based society, beginning to flatten out the world again. But with COVID, now we're seeing a return to that more rural, exurbian kind of life, which is always more traditional. It is always more conservative, and it is always more family-based and the like. So I think it's a wonderful thing. And now that our cities are imploding with the rise of Marxist anarchists on the one hand and ethnocentric tribalists on the other, who have forged a very, very tenuous alliance. They're fighting each other too, and you're going to see more of that as I think the ethno-tribalists end up taking over, and they can become very exclusivist. They could tell you, hey, if you're the wrong color, bye-bye. That's ethno-tribalism, or it can be at least. As the cities just implode under that democratic chaos, you're finding people leaving the cities, like my sister is leaving the city. She's in Brooklyn for the last still 15 years. She wants to leave, and they are not voting Democrat. They're not bringing their politics with them. They used to, I know that, because they just moved for a different standard of life, but they want to keep their politics. Now they're voting to defend themselves from what they left. So our votes are now becoming a new wall, a wall between the urban world and the exurban world. And then you have the rise of over 500 militias today. There are twice as many militias as there were 10 years ago. So you have the rise of militias. They're growing even more. Law enforcement is joining them, and they're teaming up to keep the insanity locked up in urban areas. So I do think it's going to create a far more conservative nation as a result of this realignment, geographical realignment. And I just think at this point, unless President Trump has a whole different approach in his second term, I just think at this point, the cities are shot. I mean, they're just falling apart. And unfortunately, that's exactly what, Mogadishu warlords want. They want insurgent. I was just listening to a scholar on counterinsurgency. Insurgent movements want dilapidated, chaotic places, because then there is no one there to challenge them. They have total control over those places. So I think that's what's happening in our cities, and it's tragic, and more people are not standing for it, and they're just leaving. So there you go. That's a long-winded answer there. Let's see. What else? We got, thank you. Zoidrab, thank you very much. Great show. Thank you. Do you see we swing the GOP economics of future? Something on the economics. Again, it goes by so fast. I forgot to do slow the feed. Did I catch Ron Paul in there? Were you asking sort of more Austrian economics? If you were, the answer to that is yes. You have to understand economic, and please send your question again. Economic nationalism is the most diverse form of economics. Economic nationalism is not protectionism. Just ask Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil, that. Economic nationalism is not protectionism. Economic nationalism simply sees the economy as an extension of one's culture, an extension of the nation. So unlike globalism that sees the economy as a transcendent of culture and custom and tradition, where culture, custom, tradition must subserve to that. Are they announcing it? Is he coming? Here is President Trump. Now, economic nationalism is going to be implementing an economic strategy that is reflective of your values and your culture. And Brazil, for example, right now wants a much more Austrian form of economics to get them out of the insanity, the Marxism, economic Marxism that they've had for the last 30 years. United States is going to implement a little bit more protectionism. Poland, radically national, right-wing, implementing a little bit more socialism. Poles tend to go that way. But yes, the answer is yes. You will see a Austrian sort of rebirth as part of an economic nationalist program. What it'll look like, where it'll be, all that sort of stuff, we'll have to find out as things go. Let me get a catch up of what we're doing here. Is President Trump ready to speak? I've been bloviating here. Let's check this out a little bit, see what's going on. Yeah, I mean, visually, this is stunning. This is fantastic. This is, again, and this is also why first termers tend to win re-election 90% of the time. That's the other thing that's working in Trump's favor. There's never been a president seeking re-election, basically unchallenged, that has gone on to lose. That's a neat little stat to keep in your pocket there. So yeah, this is Trump as of tomorrow will be the front runner. It really looks, just from a visual, look at that from a vision. Now I can imagine what at CNN, what are they talking about, right? Right now at CNN and MSNBC, no masks, no social distancing. Look at this, how horrible this is. I guarantee you that's what they're talking about. It's just ridiculous. Hold on, I got a little towel here. It's hot under these lights. Ah, nice. And a hot coffee, too. That doesn't help. We're going to listen for three themes here, gang. Listen for the themes of nationalism, populism, traditionalism, which translates to border security, economic security, and cultural security. Those are going to be the three themes we're going to be listening for tonight. Cultural security, particularly with law and order.
Friends, delegates, and distinguished guests, please. I stand before you tonight, honored by your support, proud of the extraordinary progress we have made together over the last 4 incredible years, and brimming with confidence in the bright future we will build for America over the next 4 years.
Amen to that. Polls consistently show that Americans trust Trump to be able to build the economy back up more than Biden.
Wonderful people who have just come through the wrath of Hurricane Laura. We are working closely with state and local officials in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, sparing no effort to save lives. While the hurricane was fierce, one of the strongest to make landfall in 150 years, the casualties and damage were far less than thought possible only 24 hours ago. And this is due to the great work of FEMA, law enforcement, and the individual states. I will be going this weekend. And congratulations, thank you for that great job out there. We really appreciate it. We are one national family, and we will always protect, love, and care for each other. Here tonight are the people who have made my journey possible and filled my life with so much joy. For her incredible service to our nation and its children, I want to thank our magnificent First Lady.
Did you catch that? We are one national family. Remember, nationalism sees the nation as a race. Nationalism doesn't balkanize. Civic nationalism brings polyethnic identities together under one banner, one common national identity that's bigger than anything that our own enclaves could bring. That's why it's so attractive. So that's very good.
I also want to thank my amazing daughter Ivanka for that introduction and to all of my children. Ivanka, please stand up.
Yeah. Keep an eye on Ivanka. She's got political aspirations.
I love you more than words can express. I know my brother Robert is looking down on us right now from heaven. He was a great brother and was very proud of the job we are all doing. Thank you. We love you, Robert. Let us also take a moment to show our profound appreciation for a man who has always fought by our side and stood up for our values, a man of deep faith and steadfast conviction, our Vice President, Mike Pence.
Yeah, Mike Pence is going to be a force as well in 2024, big time. He's been very loyal to Trump. Trump will most likely be behind him, no question. So very, very, very good.
He's joined by his beloved wife, a teacher, and military mom, Karen Pence. Thank you, Karen.
Man, Barron has gotten huge. I haven't seen Barron Trump in a while. I stopped growing in like fourth grade. I can't believe it. So unfair.
I profoundly accept this nomination for President of the United States.
Awesome. This is already, the optics of this is already better than Biden. I mean, Biden, again, was just speaking in a room, more or less, giving a quick little speech that impressed CNN and MSNBC and Chris Wallace of Fox News. That was very important. Got to impress Chris Wallace, the Brian Williams of Fox News.
The Republican Party, the party of Abraham Lincoln, goes forward united, determined, and ready to welcome millions of Democrats, independents, and anyone who believes in the greatness of America and the righteous heart of the American people. In a new term as president, we will again build the greatest economy in history, quickly returning to full employment, soaring incomes, and record prosperity.
There's your economic security.
We will defend America against all threats and protect America against all dangers. We will lead America into new frontiers of ambition and discovery, and we will reach for new heights of national achievement. We will rekindle new faith in our values, new pride in our history, and a new spirit of unity that can only be realized through love for our great country. Because we understand that America is not a land cloaked in darkness. America is the torch that enlightens the entire world.
Thanks, Iron Horse. Throttle Master. Great comment. Thank you. Very, very appreciate it. Thank you. That's very sweet. Tell your grandparents a big hello.
Known all over the world as the People's
That's right, Brett. Libtards are certainly doing that.
That is our great American story. This has been the home of larger-than-life figures like Teddy Roosevelt and Andrew Jackson, who rallied Americans to bold visions of a bigger and brighter future. Within these walls lived tenacious generals like President Grant.
So this is what we would call our naturalist myth. Now, I don't mean myth as it's not true. Myth meaning it's a mythos, the Greek. It's an overarching story that defines our lives. So nationalist cultures are built on a grand epical story, very important story. Like just think of the New Testament, for example. And so that's what he's giving to us right now.
Abraham Lincoln looked out these very windows upon a half-completed Washington Monument and asked God in his providence to save our nation. 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor, Franklin Delano Roosevelt welcomed Winston Churchill, and just inside, they set our people on a course to victory in the Second World War. In recent months, our nation and the entire planet has been struck by a new and powerful invisible enemy. Like those brave Americans before us, we are meeting this challenge. We are delivering life-saving therapies and will produce a vaccine before the end of the year, or maybe even sooner.
It's very good, giving us a sense of hope, and then framing this war against an invisible enemy in light of World War II. That's very good. That's how a mythos works. It's able to incorporate stories of our lives into a larger story.
Generations past was an unshakable confidence in America's destiny and an unbreakable faith in the American people. They knew that our country is blessed by God and has a special purpose in this world. It is that conviction that inspired the formation of our union, our westward expansion, the abolition of slavery, the passage of civil rights, the space program, and the overthrow of fascism, tyranny, and communism. This towering American spirit has prevailed over every challenge and lifted us to the summit of human endeavor. And yet, despite all of our greatness as a nation, everything we have achieved is now in danger. This is the most important election in the history of our country.
Here he is pivoting. So here's the security, national security, economic security, and now cultural security. The very heart of our nation, very soul of our nation is being threatened. So this will be very powerful, I'm sure.
Thank you. At no time before have voters faced a clearer choice between two parties, two visions, two philosophies, or two agendas. This election will decide whether we save the American dream or whether we allow a socialist agenda to demolish our cherished destiny. It will decide whether we rapidly create millions of high-paying jobs or whether we crush our industries and send millions of these jobs overseas, as has foolishly been done for many decades.
Economic nationalism, there it is.
The vote will decide whether we protect law-abiding Americans or whether we give free rein to violent anarchists, agitators, and criminals who threaten our citizens. And this election will decide whether we will defend the American way of life or whether we will allow a radical movement to completely dismantle and destroy it. That won't happen.
It's great. So again, you hear the border, economic, and cultural security and all of that.
National Convention, Joe Biden and his party repeatedly assailed America as a land of racial, economic, and social injustice. So tonight I ask you a simple question. How can the Democrat Party ask to lead our country when it spends so much time tearing down our country?
Amen. That was a little twist on Tucker, wasn't it? How could they lead a country that they hate so much? How can they lead a country when they spend so much time tearing it down? Brilliant.
The left's backward view. They do not see America as the most free, just, and exceptional nation on earth. Instead, they see a wicked nation that must be punished for its sins. Our opponents say that redemption for you can only come from giving power to them.
Oh, it's good.
This is a tired anthem spoken by every repressive movement
Amen.
throughout history. But in this country, we don't look to career politicians for salvation. In America, we don't turn to government to restore our souls. We put our
Faith in
Almighty
God. Yeah, he's used that before. That's brilliant. Again, very important to a civic nationalism, the religious life of a people. Again, that's our cultural security. That's huge. As you're having a cultural revolution, a Marxist, he's bringing us back to the true cultural security of putting our faith in one nation under God.
Of America's soul. He is the destroyer of America's jobs. And if given the chance, he will be the destroyer of American greatness. For 47 years, Joe Biden took the donations of blue-collar workers, gave them hugs and even kisses.
Really? Sniffy Joe, man. Sniffy Joe. Oh, that's great. Come on, man.
He told them he felt their pain. And then he flew back to Washington and voted to ship our jobs to China and many other distant lands. Joe Biden spent his entire career outsourcing their dreams and the dreams of American workers, offshoring their jobs, opening their borders, and sending their sons and daughters to fight in endless foreign wars, wars that never ended. 4 years ago, I ran for president because I could not watch this betrayal of our country any longer. I could not sit by as career politicians let other countries take advantage of us on trade.
Biden thinks debate means losing his minnow off the hook. Gee, Brew, that's awesome. That's fantastic. All men and women are created by, go, you know the thing. Yeah. Oh, it's so great. Lurvy, awesome.
They agreed to pay $130 billion more a year, the first time in over 20 years that they upped their payments.
Yeah.
And this $130 billion will ultimately go to $400 billion a year. And Secretary General Stoltenberg, who heads NATO, was amazed after watching for so many years and said that President Trump did what no one else was able to do. Thank you. From the moment I left my former life behind, and it was a good life, I have done nothing but fight for you. I did what our political establishment never expected and could never forgive, breaking the cardinal rule of Washington politics. I kept my promise.
Amen. Yeah, this is a great speech so far. It's fantastic. He's contrasting himself brilliantly with Biden. That right there, when he said Biden goes to all the good, the blue collar workers, takes their money and then ships their jobs overseas, and then he contrasts that with what he's done and bringing their jobs back here. Excellent.
Necessary. You've seen that. They're angry at me because instead of putting them first, I very simply
put
said
America first.
America
Yeah,
first.
excellent. I like the meme. They don't hate me; they hate you. I'm just in the way. That's. I think he's drawing from that.
After taking office, we shocked the Washington establishment and withdrew from the last administration's job-killing Trans-Pacific Partnership.
There you go. Both economic and border security there.
The Keystone XL and Dakota Access pipelines.
Economic security.
Ended the unfair and very costly Paris Climate Accord.
Both economic as well as border.
Secured for the first time American energy independence.
There you go. Same border as well as economic. Energy independence is essential to being a sovereign nation. As energy dependent as you can get, Japan tends to be energy dependent. As energy independent as you get.
Setting tax and regulation cuts at a rate nobody had ever seen before. Within 3 short years, we built the strongest economy in the history of the world. Washington insiders asked me not to stand up to China. They pleaded with me to let China continue stealing our jobs, ripping us off, and robbing our country blind. But I kept my word to the American people. We took the toughest, boldest, strongest, and hardest hitting action against China in American history by far. They said that it would be impossible to terminate and replace NAFTA. But again, they were wrong. Earlier this year, I ended the NAFTA nightmare and signed the brand new U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement into law. And right now, auto companies and others are building their plants and factories in America, not firing their employees, and not deserting us for other countries.
Was that economic security?
In perhaps no area did the Washington special interests try harder to stop us than on my policy of pro-American immigration. But I refuse to back down, and today America's borders are more secure than ever
before. Border security, gigantic. 200 miles of wall, not including all the modified walls that are already there.
We ended catch and release, stopped asylum fraud, took down human traffickers who prey on women and children, and we have deported 20,000 gang members and 500,000 criminal aliens.
Wow. One of his most popular policies, even among African Americans. 10 new miles every single week.
Will soon be complete, and it is working beyond our wildest expectations.
Trump 2020, Doc Ride. Thanks, man. Godspeed, Patriots. Amen. Amen, Doc Ride. Amen. Biden, Biden. American therapy. That's right. Randy, Turley the stud muffin. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. I don't hear that every day. Oh, wait a minute now. Come on, Randy. I missed something good there. What was it? What did he say? I'll read the transcript later for tomorrow's vid. I'm under lights here. That's the only way I can get a good picture of my camera. Those lights are hot, man. Whew.
Enforcement.
Oh, so law enforcement. Amen. There you go. So there's that cultural security. Keeping the nation a nation of law and order. Love and respect. That's all right.
When I learned that the Tennessee Valley Authority laid off hundreds of American workers and forced them to train their lower paid foreign replacement, I promptly removed the chairman of the board. And now those talented American workers have been rehired and are back, providing power to Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky,
Amen. Look at that.
North Carolina, and Virginia.
Every one of those states he'll win. Virginia, I don't know. We'll see. Virginia's gone absolutely insane of late.
And some are here with us this evening. Please stand. You went through a lot. Please stand. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's good. That's some good graphics.
Last month, I took on Big Pharma. You think that's easy? And signed orders that will massively lower the cost.
I hope he wins. Lisa Bailey, I hope he wins Minnesota as well. He has a real shot more than any Republican since 1972. He's got a real shot at it. Pennsylvania, too. That's right, for Trump. He'll win at least 49 states. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. Let's make it happen.
Also passed VA accountability and VA choice. Our great veterans. We're taking care of our veterans.
So this is kind of the wonky part of the speech. Reagan marked that he never liked these parts of the speech where you get into all the basics and so forth. It's always the beginning and it's always the ending. That's what people remember and that's what fires people up. So anyway. Oh, let's make it 3. Come on. Get Ginsburg out of there.
And to bring prosperity to our forgotten inner cities, we worked hard to pass historic criminal justice reform, prison reform, opportunity zones, and long-term funding of historically Black colleges and universities. And before the China virus came in, produced the best unemployment numbers for African Americans, Hispanic Americans.
Did he say China virus? Can you imagine what CNN is doing right now? Did he say China virus? Unlike Cuomo, who called it the European virus, just beyond disgusting. It's called what is it? Ecophobia, the hatred of one's own.
Done more in 3 years for the Black community than Joe Biden has done in 47 years.
Amen. Amen.
And when I'm reelected, the best is yet to come.
Great. Great. Awesome. Again, lots of focus on economic security. That's really good. Again, that tends to be what's binding everybody together and to create that massive populist coalition. This is great, right on the lawn of the White House. What beautiful optics. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Better than a convention. I always found conventions a little goofy in those amphitheaters and all. This is beautiful. I'm sure it's really hot out there, hotter than being under these lights.
When I took office, the Middle East was in total chaos.
Oh, this is good. This is going to be really good. With the UAE and Israel. This is very good. And ISIS and the like.
I withdrew from the terrible one-sided Iran nuclear deal.
Remember when he took office, ISIS had a third of Iraq under its control. They're dead now.
Israel's true capital and moved our embassy to Jerusalem.
First president to keep his promise on that. Everyone promised Jewish voters that, but he was the only one who kept that promise.
But not only did we talk about it as a future site, we got it built. Rather than spending $1 billion on a new building as planned, we took an already owned existing building in a better location. Real estate deal, right? And opened it at a cost of less than $500,000.
Wow, that's great. See, that's great. That shows only Trump can talk that way. Biden can't. Biden just spends our money. Trump tries to save it. It's great.
We also recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. And this month we achieved the first Middle East
Peace deal in 25 years.
25 years.
Yep.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Thank you to Israel.
Thanks, Cineots. Is that how you say it, Cineots? Great to catch you live. Dr. Stevie subscribed at 450. Kudos. Great to have you, man. Great to have you. Thank you. It's great. Al-Baghdadi. So that's going to be the third globalism, the Islamic globalism that he's pushing back on. So you've got Western globalism he's taking down here at home and in Brussels, Beijing globalism that he's taking down, and Ooh, and Iran, the Islamic. Oh, sorry, Soleimani. That's who I was thinking. Al-Baghdadi was the ISIS guy. Sorry. My fault. Amen.
Troops are coming home. We have spent nearly $2.5 trillion on completely rebuilding our military, which was very badly depleted when I took office, as you know. This includes 3 separate pay raises for our great warriors.
Joe Biden's rolling over in his grave. That's right, Dave S. Absolutely. Oh, they know it. I mean, Trump is the front runner as of right now. Maybe that'll be our title tomorrow. Trump is the new front runner. He is the front runner right now as we speak.
We have spent the last 4 years reversing the
Thanks, Christine. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
47 years. Biden's record is a shameful roll call of the most catastrophic betrayals and blunders in our
Ooh,
lifetime.
that's a nice phrase. Roll call of catastrophic blunders.
Biden voted for the NAFTA disaster, the single worst trade deal ever enacted. He supported China's entry into the World Trade Organization.
Oh, you know what he's doing now is he is hitting hard at the hearts of white working voters in Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota, most of whom defected in 2016 and voted for a Republican for the first time in 30 years. There you go. Pennsylvania.
I hear Biden's hollow words of empathy. They wanted their jobs back. As vice president, he supported the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a death sentence for the U.S. auto industry. He backed the horrendous South Korea trade deal, which took many jobs from our country and which I've reversed and made a great deal for our country. He repeatedly supported mass amnesty for illegal immigrants. He voted for the Iraq War. He opposed the mission to take out Osama bin Laden. He opposed killing Soleimani. He oversaw the rise of ISIS and cheered the rise of China as a positive development for America and the world. So positive development. That's why China supports Joe Biden and desperately wants him to win. I can tell you that upon very good.
Brado, could you hear that? You can hear somebody playing piano? That's my wife. My wife's practicing downstairs.
Unlike Biden, I will hold them fully accountable for the tragedy that they caused all over the world. In recent months, our nation and the world has been hit by the once-in-a-century pandemic that China allowed to spread around the globe. They could have stopped it, but they allowed it to come out. We are grateful to be joined tonight by several of our incredible nurses and first responders. Please stand and accept our profound thanks and gratitude.
It's very good. I mean, he's hitting all the main topics here. Again, so the border security, economic security, cultural security, law and order, health, these sort of things. It's excellent, and he's framing it all in such a way that I think resonates with Mid-America.
Friends and cherished loved ones to this horrible disease. As one nation, we mourn, we grieve, and we hold in our hearts forever the memories of all of those lives that have been so tragically taken, so unnecessary. In their honor, we will unite. In their memory, we will overcome. And when the China virus hit,
The China virus, he keeps doing it, man.
mobilization since World War II, invoking the Defense Production Act, we produced the world's largest supply of ventilators. Not a single American who has needed a ventilator has been denied a ventilator, which is a miracle.
CNN must be just doing cartwheels right now. They're so angry, so upset. Must look like the Tasmanian devil at this point.
We shipped hundreds of millions of masks, gloves, and gowns to our frontline healthcare workers. To protect our nation's seniors, we rushed supplies, testing kits, and personal to nursing homes. We gave everything you can possibly give, and we're still giving it because we're taking care of our senior citizens. The Army Corps of Engineers built field hospitals, and the Navy.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Julie Medusa. Very much appreciated. Thank you. I will keep up. Well, with people like you out there, Julie, I will. I'll do the best I can. All the way to November.
Put together, and more than every nation in the Western Hemisphere combined. We have conducted 40 million more tests than the next closest nation, which is India. We developed a wide array of effective treatments, including a powerful antibody treatment known as convalescent plasma. You saw that on Sunday night when we announced it. That will save thousands and thousands of lives. Thanks to advances, we have pioneered the fatality rate. And you look at it, and you look at the numbers, it has been reduced by 80% since April. 80%. The United States is among the lowest case fatality rates of any major country anywhere in the world. The European Union's case fatality rate is nearly 3 times higher than ours, but you don't hear that. They don't write about that. They don't want to write about that. They don't want you to know those things. Altogether, the nations of Europe have experienced a 30% greater increase in excess mortality than the United States. Think of that. We enacted the largest package of financial relief in American history. Thanks to our Paycheck Protection Program, we have saved or supported more than 50 million American jobs. That's one of the reasons that we're advancing so rapidly with our economy. Great job.
So good too. He's not hiding away from, and this is so Trump. He's not hiding away from the COVID. That's all the Democrats hit last week. COVID rates are now at their lowest rates, I think, since the pandemic came out. And so, as Dick Morris points out, as COVID begins to wane, so the Democrats begin to wane. If you've pinned all your hopes on a pandemic on the one hand and riots on the other, riots help the Republicans and the pandemic wanes helps the Republicans. It's not a very good strategy. Thank you, Porcupus. Very good. Love the name. That's great. Thank you very much.
Joe Biden called it hysterical and xenophobic. And then I introduced a ban on Europe very early again.
This is good. Again, border security.
Joe, hundreds of thousands more Americans would have died.
Joe Biden opposed the travel ban to China originally, as did the World Health Organization.
His shutdown would inflict unthinkable and lasting harm on our nation's children, families, and citizens of all backgrounds. The cost of the Biden shutdown would be measured in increased drug overdoses, depression, alcohol.
So now he's getting into, thanks, JG, very much. Thank you. Now he's getting into, Biden saying that if he's elected, he's going to shut down the country, completely. And now he's just taking him out on that one. That was a dumb thing for Biden to say. Dumb. After the riot, or I was going to be kind. The demonstrations. Thanks, Analog IDC, very much. God bless you, my friend. After the demonstrations, when everybody was transgressing the social distancing and the mask mandates and those shutdowns are dead. They're not going to happen again after that. People found that, oh, wait a minute now, if I have the right political aspirations and loyalties, I could do whatever I want. So people don't buy the shutdown anymore.
They have to get back to work. They have to get back to school. Most importantly, we are marshaling America's scientific genius to produce a vaccine in record time. under Operation Warp Speed, we have 3 different vaccines in the final stage of trials right now, years ahead of what has...
Operation Warp Speed is really, really interesting. When Russia announced that they had a vaccine, our Operation Warp Speed, we had 3 different vaccines that were even farther in the trials than Russia. And then we were now in the process of putting those on the final phase of trial. So it's good. It's a very, very good thing. They're doing an excellent job.
At the Democrat convention, you barely heard a word about their agenda. But that's not because they don't have one. It's because their agenda is the most extreme set of proposals ever put forward by a major party nominee.
Take him down.
Claim he is an ally of the light. But when it comes to his agenda, Biden wants to keep us completely in the dark.
Nice.
He doesn't have a clue. He has pledged a $4 trillion tax hike on almost all American families, which will totally collapse our rapidly improving economy. And once again, record stock markets that we have right now will also collapse. That means your 401ks. That means all of the stocks that you have.
So this is a great speech. You notice he's being. Biden was so pathetically ambiguous when it came to policy, and this speech is so heavy on policy. It's giving Trump a massive opening to just keep hitting him in twofold. For every time he brings up policy, he's hitting Biden because Biden is ambiguous, and for every time he ends up giving all these platitudes, that I'm embracing the light and pushing away the darkness, he's able to exploit that as well by pointing out how radical their agenda actually is. It's really good strategy rhetorically.
Joe Biden's agenda is made in China. My agenda is
nice.
Made in the USA.
Nice. That resonates. That's fantastic. 47 years of failure. Yeah, the speech is a home run. I mean, it's a home run. This is fantastic. He's hitting everything he needs to hit. They were on top of this convention, man. This is unbelievable. Here we go.
And natural gas laying waste to the economies of Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Colorado, and New Mexico.
He wants all those states lined up on November 3rd, all red.
Jobs will be lost, and energy prices will soar. These same policies led to crippling power outages in California just last week.
That's great. Again, everybody knows that. They've had the rolling power outages, and people are like, ugh, I don't want to live under that. And now he's exploiting that. It's perfect.
His own party can't even keep the lights on.
That's great. How can you be the candidate of light when you can't even keep the lights on? Brilliant.
Has even published a 110-page policy platform. You can't get away from this. Co-authored with far-left Senator Crazy Bernie Sanders.
Crazy.
Biden-Bernie manifesto calls for suspending all removals of illegal aliens, implementing nationwide catch and release, and providing illegal aliens with free taxpayer-funded lawyers.
Here's that border security's hammering.
Everybody has a lawyer. We have a lawyer. That's what we need is more lawyers. Joe Biden recently raised his hand on the debate stage and promised to your giveaway he was going to give it away, your health care dollars to illegal immigrants, which is going to bring massive number of immigrants into our country. Massive numbers will pour into our country in order to get all of the goodies that they want to give, education, health care, and everything. He also supports deadly sanctuary cities that protect criminal aliens. He promised to end national security travel bans from jihadist nations, and he pledged to increase refugee admissions by 700%.
This is fantastic. He's hitting so hard right now on a porous border.
The plan would eliminate America's borders in the middle of a global
pandemic. Remember, even Justin Trudeau has shut down his borders. This is brilliant. This is excellent what he's doing here.
Biden also vowed to oppose school choice and close all charter schools, ripping away the ladder of opportunity for Black and Hispanic children. In a second term, I will expand charter schools and provide school choice to every family in America.
That's one thing that was a disappointing thing. He had promised to bring much more school choice, make it the new national policy in this first term. But Betsy DeVos is still there as the Secretary of Education, so hopefully he will do it in the second term. I would love to see much more educational choice and privatization of education.
He has empathy for the vulnerable, yet the party he leads supports the extreme late-term abortion of defenseless babies right up until the moment of birth.
Amen.
Democrat leaders talk about moral decency, but they have no problem with stopping a baby's beating heart in the 9th month of pregnancy. Democrat politicians refuse to protect innocent life, and then they lecture us about morality and saving America's soul. Tonight, we proudly declare that all children, born and unborn, have a God-given right to life.
Now, if you'll notice, he pushed that 9 months of pregnancy, 9 months or 7-pound baby in utero. Vast majority of Americans, 60 to 80%, are opposed to abortion past at least the second or third trimester. They do not want it. So this was brilliant.
Were removed from the Pledge of Allegiance, not once but twice. We will never do that.
The media tried to gaslight that when they said they took the Pledge of Allegiance under God, one nation under God, under the Pledge of Allegiance. CNN, no, they didn't. No, they did. Well, they did it in 2 different occasions. Yeah, they did. They did do it in a couple of occasions. Republicans would never do it. That's the difference.
Biden is a Trojan horse for socialism. If Joe Biden doesn't have the strength to stand up to wild-eyed Marxists like Bernie Sanders and his fellow radicals, and there are many, we see them all the time, it's incredible actually, then how is he ever going to stand up for you? He's not. The most dangerous aspect of the Biden platform is the attack on public safety.
Oh, here we go.
The Bernie manifesto calls for abolishing cash bail, immediately releasing 400,000 criminals onto the streets and into your neighborhoods, with the men and women of law enforcement.
Awesome. No one will be safe in Biden's America. That's very good. That's very good. Not if you're in the urban world or in the ex-urban world, you will not be safe. That's excellent.
Risk their lives to keep us safe, and every year many sacrifice their lives in the line of duty. One of these incredible Americans was Detective Miostas Familia. She was part of a team of American heroes called the NYPD, or New York's finest, who I was very, very proud to get their endorsement.
That's fantastic. Got the endorsement in the New York Police Department. That's absolutely sensational. Incredible. Amen.
Thank you. 3 years ago, on the 4th of July weekend, Detective Familia was on duty in her vehicle when she was ambushed just after midnight and murdered by a monster who hated her purely for wearing the badge. Detective Familia was a single mom. She recently asked for the night shift so she could spend more time with her kids. 2 years ago, I stood in front of the U.S. Capitol alongside those beautiful children and held their grandmother's hand as they mourned their terrible loss. And we honored Detective Familia's extraordinary life. It was extraordinary. Detective Familia's 3 children are with us this evening. Genesis, Peter, Delilah, we are so grateful to have you here tonight. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much.
That was beautiful. Very, very touching, very heart-wrenching. That was beautiful. And that put an incredibly human face on one of the most hated professions in the nation at this point is police officers. That was brilliant.
I promise you that we will treasure your mom in our memories forever. We must remember that the overwhelming majority of police officers in this country, and that's the overwhelming majority, are noble, courageous, and honorable. We have to give law enforcement, our police, back their power. They are afraid to act.
You heard, did I read Virginia had just passed, I think it was today. Again, this insane liberal Democratic government in Virginia passed legislation that would make attacking a police officer a misdemeanor. It's just disgusting.
Police misconduct, the justice system must hold wrongdoers fully and completely accountable, and it will. But when we can never have a situation where things are going on as they are today, we must never allow mob rule. We can never allow mob rule. In the strongest possible terms, the Republican Party condemns the rioting, looting, arson, and violence we have seen in Democratic cities all like Kenosha, Minneapolis, Portland, Chicago, and New York, and many others. Democrat run.
Democrat run.
Violence and danger in the streets of many Democrat-run cities throughout America. This problem could easily be fixed if they wanted to. Just call. We're ready to go in. We'll take care of your problem in a matter of hours. Just call. We have to wait for the call. It's too bad we have to, but we have to.
Yeah, that's the federalist system. So it's delegated jurisdiction of power. President can't just go into a city and just, militarize it.
When the anarchists started ripping down our statues and monuments right outside, I signed an order immediately. 10 years in prison. And it was a miracle. It all stopped. No more statues.
Brilliant. That's good. He shows it. He's got a city. He has to run a city. He has to run a city. He showed he could stop it. Now what's Fry's excuse in Minneapolis or Wheeler's excuse in Portland?
In Democrat-run cities, they never even mentioned it during their entire convention. Never once mentioned. Now they're starting to mention it because their poll numbers are going down like a rock in water.
Spoken like the true front runner. He is now officially the front runner.
Left-wing anarchy and mayhem in Minneapolis, Chicago, and other cities. Joe Biden's campaign did not condemn it. They donated to it.
Ooh.
At least 13 members of Joe Biden's campaign staff donated to a fund to bail out vandals, arsonists, anarchists, looters, and rioters from jail.
Amen.
Here tonight is the grieving family of retired police captain David Dorn and 38 veteran of the St. Louis Police Department, a great man and a highly respected man by all. In June, Captain Dorn was shot and killed as he tried to protect his store from rioters and looters, or as the Democrats would call them, peaceful protesters. They call them peaceful protesters. We're honored to be joined tonight by his wonderful wife, Ann, and beloved family members, Brian and Kaylin. To each of you, we will never forget the heroic legacy of Captain David Dorn. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
Again, very beautiful. Very, very touching. Extremely touching.
Thank you very much. Great man. Great man. As long as I am president, we will defend the absolute right of every American citizen to live in security, dignity, and peace. If the Democrat Party wants to stand with anarchists, agitators, rioters, looters, and flag burners, that is up to them. But I, as your president, will not be a part of it. The Republican Party will remain the voice of the patriotic heroes who keep America safe and salute the American flag.
So this whole section here, this last 15 minutes has been this extended meditation, as it were, on cultural security. And we're bringing, oh, there's John Hagee, the pastor, cultural security, bringing our nation together and being protected by our customs, cultures, and traditions.
Just 4 Democrat-run cities. The top 10 most dangerous cities in the country are run by Democrats.
All by Democrats.
For many decades. Thousands more African Americans are victims of violent crime in these communities. Joe Biden and the left ignore these American victims. I never will. If the radical left takes power, they will apply their disastrous policies to every city, town, and suburb in America. Just imagine if the so-called peaceful demonstrators in the streets were in charge of every lever of power in the U.S. government. Just think of that. Liberal politicians claim to be concerned about the strength of American institutions. But who exactly is attacking them? Who is hiring the radical professors, judges, and prosecutors? Who is trying to abolish immigration enforcement and establish speech codes designed to muzzle dissent? In every case, the attacks on American institutions are being waged by radical left. Always remember, they are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Amen. So there you go. It's not that they hate him, they hate us. He's just in the way. Yeah, absolutely. That was great, talking about the colleges, the universities, because that's where it all starts, in my view. That's where cultural Marxism came into the country in the 1930s and 40s, was through the universities, through the Frankfurt School.
Let's see now what happens.
Aha, there you go.
We must reclaim our independence from the left's repressive mandates. Americans are exhausted trying to keep up with the latest list of approved words and phrases.
Remember, 78% of Americans despise political correctness. So this is perfect. He's nailing political correctness right now.
Are constantly changing. The goal of cancel culture is to make decent Americans live in fear of being fired, expelled, shamed, humiliated, and driven from society as we know it. The far left wants to coerce you into saying what you know to be false and scare you out of saying
What you know to be true. It's great.
Very sad.
That's a fantastic
On
use of
November
rhetoric.
3rd, you can send them a very thundering message they will never forget.
That's great. November 3rd. We're going to tell them where they can stick it. That's fantastic. This is an amazing speech. You are looking at your new front runner. And he should be in the front running throughout the entire rest of the election. Remember, he lost the popular vote by 3 points to Hillary, and he's now at a statistical tie. So he's already blowing Biden out of the water.
He takes his marching orders from liberal hypocrites who drive their cities into the ground while fleeing far from the scene of the wreckage. These same liberals want to eliminate school choice.
They do.
They enroll their children in the finest private schools.
Exactly. Yeah. They are hypocrites. That's the ruling class.
Well, living in Waldorf compounds and communities.
So this is populist rhetoric now. So remember, the new animosity is not right versus left or Republican versus Democrat. It's the political class versus the people, the rulers versus the ruled. And this is a brilliant strategy.
Fact is, I'm
Yeah.
What's the name of that building? But I'll say it differently. The fact is, we're here and they're not.
Amen. Yeah, this is an amazing speech. I mean, again, Trump comes across as just so likable. He's truly presidential. He's unique. He's populist. He speaks the language of the people. It's just fantastic. Biden's speech looks like a sleeper compared to this.
Wonderful place with an incredible history. But it's all because of you. Together we will write the next chapter of the great American story. Over the next 4 years, we will make America into the manufacturing superpower of the world. We will expand opportunity zones. Thank you, Tim Scott. Bring home our medical supply chains, and we will end our resilience for bad things. We will go right after China. We will not rely on them one bit. We're taking our business out of China. We are bringing it home. We want our business.
There's your economic security coming on back. Economic nationalism.
And regulations at levels not seen before. We will create 10 million jobs in the next 10 months. And it'll be higher than that. We will hire more police, increase penalties for assaults on law enforcement, and surge federal prosecutors into high crime communities. We will ban deadly sanctuary cities and ensure that federal health care is protected for American citizens.
Here's your border security. Remember, border security, economic security, cultural security. That's the Trump doctrine.
I've said for years, without borders, we don't have a country.
That's right. Border security.
Strike down terrorists who threaten our people and keep America out of endless and costly foreign wars.
Everything that elected him in 2016. It's fantastic.
Justices who believe in enforcing the law, not enforcing their own political agenda.
That's part of your cultural security.
We will ensure equal justice for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. We will uphold your religious liberty and defend your Second Amendment right to keep and bear
Your arms. My, oh my. Second Amendment is safer today than it has ever been. That's for sure. After all the riots.
And if we don't win, your Second Amendment doesn't have a chance. I can tell you that. I have totally protected it. We will protect Medicare and Social Security. We will always and very strongly protect patients with pre-existing conditions. And that is a pledge from the entire Republican Party. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, the big thing is to get back the House. That's what we really need to see. Kick Nancy out.
Further reduce the cost of prescription drugs and health insurance premiums. They're coming way down. We will greatly expand energy development, continuing to remain the #1 in the world and keep America energy independent.
So he's hitting on all these same themes again. Economic nationalism.
Look how low your gasoline is. I haven't seen that in a long time.
That's a good one.
We will win the race to 5G and build the world's best cyber and missile defense, already under construction. We will fully restore patriotic education to our schools and always protect. We will always protect free speech on college campuses.
Oh, so now again, one of the things we'll be talking about in videos coming up is strategies by which to take back the education system. We've got to do that. That's how in many ways, I think we lost everything. We bought into the idea that to be a truly educated person, you have to be a left-wing liberal. That's what universities are teaching our kids. That's what K-12 education is teaching. we've got to teach them to be a truly educated person, is to be a post-globalist nationalist populist. That's the wave of the future.
On the moon, and the United States will be the first nation to plant its beautiful flag on Mars. This is the unifying national agenda.
He's tapping into the Elon Musk wing here.
So tonight I say to all Americans, this is the most important election in the history of our country. There has never been such a difference between two parties or two individuals in ideology, philosophy, or vision than there is right now. Our opponents believe that America is a depraved nation.
That's great.
Our sons and daughters to know the truth. America is the greatest and most exceptional nation in the history of the world.
Very powerful, and again, very central to the mythos of what it means to be an American. Very patriotic, very nationalistic, because that's what keeps our polyethnic society together.
Our country wasn't built by cancel culture, speech codes, and soul-crushing conformity. We are not a nation of timid spirits. We are a nation of fierce, proud, and independent American patriots. We're a nation of pilgrims, pioneers, adventurers, explorers, and trailblazers who refuse to be tied down, held back, or in any way reined in. Americans have steel in their spines, grit in their souls, and fire in their hearts.
He's getting Reagan-esque.
No one like us on earth. I want every child in America to know that you are part of the most exciting and incredible adventure in human history. No matter where your family comes from, no matter your background in America, anyone can rise. With hard work, devotion, and drive, you can reach any goal and achieve every ambition. Our American ancestors sailed across the perilous ocean to build a new life on a new continent. They braved the freezing winters, crossed the raging rivers, scaled the rocky peaks, trekked the dangerous forests, and worked from dawn till dusk. These pioneers didn't have money, they didn't have fame, but they had each other. They loved their families, they loved their country, and they loved their God.
Faith, family, freedom.
When opportunity beckoned, they picked up their Bibles, packed up their belongings, climbed into their covered wagons, and set out west for the next adventure. Ranchers and miners, cowboys and sheriffs, farmers and settlers, they pressed on past the Mississippi to stake a claim in the wild frontier.
This is great. This is beautiful. Remember, this is our mythos, right? He started this way and he ended this way. You open a book and close it by its cover. It's perfect.
Americans built their beautiful homesteads on the open range. Soon they had churches and communities, then towns, and with time, great centers of industry and commerce. That is who they were. Americans build their future. We don't tear down our past.
Ooh.
We are the nation.
That's brilliant. This is a speech for everyone that wants to flee urban rot and start anew in a wonderful mid-America, hope-filled future.
Skyscrapers revolutionized industry and sparked a new age of scientific discovery. We set the trends in art and music, radio and film, sport and literature, and we did it all with style and confidence and flair, because that is who we are. Whenever our way of life was threatened, our heroes answered the call. From Yorktown to Gettysburg, from Normandy to Iwo Jima, American patriots raced into cannon blasts, bullets and bayonets to rescue American liberty. They had no fear, but America didn't stop there. We looked into the sky and kept pressing onward. We built a 6 million pound rocket and launched it thousands of miles into space. We did it so that two brave patriots could stand tall and salute our wondrous American flag planted on the face of the moon. For America, nothing is impossible. Over the next 4 years, we will prove worthy of this magnificent legacy. We will reach stunning new heights, and we will show that the world, for America, there is a dream, and it is not beyond your reach. Together we are unstoppable. Together we are unbeatable, because together we are the proud citizens of the United States of America.
What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? Absolutely beautiful. That is an invitation to everyone who wants to leave Democrat rot.
We will make America safer. We will make America stronger. We will make America prouder. And we will make America greater than ever before. I'm very, very proud to be the nominee of the Republican Party. I love you all. God bless you.
Wow.
God bless you.
All right. Home run. I would say that's a grand slam. That hit everything. It was astonishing and delivered well, delivered so whimsically with his little quick little, isn't that crazy? Isn't that horrible? Or isn't that amazing? His little Trumpisms thrown in there. Oh man, now we got the fireworks there around the Capitol. Oh, it's great. Now that was exactly what Trump needed to do. That was a speech that really hit home. Let me bring the volume down a little bit. That really hit home with everyone who was tired of Democrat rot. Everybody in the cities who would have voted Democrat. Keep in mind, if there were no, I mean, you've got to think about it this way. If there were no riots in their cities, they would have voted Democrat. But after they saw that kind of insanity, after they saw the only institution that stood between them and these rioters and looters and arsonists and the like, law enforcement, the only institution that stood in between them and these rioters and looters getting thrown under the bus and disparaged and degraded by left-wing politicians. That was it. Trump had an opportunity and he seized it. I had Michael Goodwin had a very good piece today. He writes for the New York Post. And it was a piece that said Trump was poised to become the front runner from this point forward. And I don't think there's a doubt tomorrow he will be, or he is officially the front runner now. We'll just have confirmation for that tomorrow. Again, he's also already gotten enormous boosts just in the last 2 weeks in his poll numbers. But what Goodwin was pointing out is that Trump was able to effectively, through these 4 days, position himself as the defender of America. He is the defender of America, and he is a defender of the American way of life. The riots are now owned by the Democrats. And that was perfect tonight, where he's saying, you take your top 10 most dilapidated, imploding cities, they are all monopolized by the Democrats. He could have said top 20, but apparently Jacksonville has is it just a Republican mayor and a Republican legislature? I'm not sure. And I think that's the 20th most violent or something akin to that. I forget. But he made sure that if you didn't connect Biden Democrats with riots before the speech, he made sure that you did now. And he made sure that you realize Republicans have not one shred of things to do with these riots. So he's a defender of America and the American way of life. And he has pinned Joe Biden and the Democrats as the defender of riots and the defender of rot, defenders of rot. And absolutely brilliant. I think Michael Goodwin is correct on that if Trump was able to effectively do that, he will become the new frontrunner, and we should see that frontrunner status propel him into massive victory in November. We all have to go out and vote. We all have to watch out. We can never underestimate the extent to which Democrats are going to cheat, but they've always been cheating. That's what just Democrats do. So fantastic speech. And again, he hit those three themes of nationalism, populism, and traditionalism in terms of border security, economic security, and cultural security all the way throughout. Those were pearls that were just threaded beautifully with lots of nice turns of phrases. And again, great Trumpism. He doesn't come out as a politician. He comes out as a guy who's going to get things done, who's going to stand between you and the chaos. He's going to stand between you and the societal rot and rioter. And that means standing between you and the Democrat. And it's an invitation for everyone all across the nation, for especially African Americans, Latinos, and those in urban populations who are sick of the rot. It's an invitation to come in and join this great resurgence of American nationalism that takes care of every one of our citizens. That's key. That's why borders are so important. Borders make a distinction between the greatness of our nation and the problems that are outside of the nation. And it keeps those problems there, and it keeps our immune system, our national immune system, secure. All right, guys. Great. Does anyone have anything else you want to do? Can't wait to vote. Amen, Paula. Absolutely. Yes. If you can go shopping for an hour in a store filled with people, you can stand in line with Matt. If you could go and protest, you can go and vote. If you could protest in person, you can vote in person. Trump has the gift to inspire through speech. It was very much that. Fireworks are amazing. These are huge. Again, it's Trump. Trump doesn't do anything half-heartedly. That's one of the things Trump loves to say. I forget who it was. Was it Robert Kiyosaki? I forget who pointed out. Trump loves to always say, this is the best. We've never had anything like this before. This is the greatest thing we've ever done or anyone's ever done. But that's a Trumpism. Trump is a billionaire. He thinks in terms of the highest possible outcome, the highest possible quality, and he excites people and he inspires people to become a part of it. So anyway, you heard that there. All right. Let's see. We're going to be able to shove it in their face on November 3rd. Look at this. Ooh, Nessun Dorma. Puccini. It makes me think of Salvini. Matteo Salvini would always play this at his rallies. Let's take a moment and listen in on this. I love this aria. Nessun Dorma by Puccini. Matteo Salvini, if you're listening, you gotta make a comeback. We want to see you back. We want to see you as prime minister. This is the most beautiful. Luciano Pavarotti sang this magnificently. This was his signature piece. Italian was created to sing. Can't speak Italian, you've got to sing it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Can barely hear it, Steve. Listen to it. You go on the feed there. Go on the live feed, you'll hear it. Oh, you got to hear. If you can't hear it,